first, I would like to ask you to play out a role play with me.
Okay.
We're going to probably do 2 of these role plays, and so this one is actually rather formal. I won't actually have a role, even though it's called a role play. I will be a member of the audience listening to you. So let me set this up for you, and then I'll sort of step out of your way and let you take over. But let's say that you're a visiting assistant dean at a university here in the U.S., and the dean is suddenly called away during a banquet in honor of the new international faculty. And since you are the assistant dean, you will have to address the group in the dean's place. So you will have to address the current, new, and international colleagues on this rather formal occasion. So welcome the current and new faculty and encourage them to reflect perhaps on the role international faculty members play within an academic institution preparing students for the global economy. And I will just be a member of the faculty sitting in the audience listening to your remarks. Is that clear?
Wondering where the dean actually is,
right,
and who is this guy who's stepping up to talk?
Right. No. Do you have any questions about any of that?
I think I understand.
Okay.
I think I understood the steps. I'm to welcome the current faculty and the new faculty. The event is for the new faculty, in particular the international faculty, and then to speak a bit about their importance and their role and their function.
Right. That's right. So whenever you're ready, you can just imagine that the new faculty are sitting in the banquet hall with you, and that someone has either handed you the microphone or you've stepped up to the podium, whichever you feel more comfortable with, and then you may begin. Okay. All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this very special event, welcoming and recognizing the importance of the contributions of international faculty at our institution. For those who don't know me, because you probably saw in your program that I'm not Dean Graham. I am a visiting assistant dean here at the university. My name is James Monk, and I am also a specialist in language and cultural education. So it gives me particular pleasure to be able to address you and welcome you to this event. I would like to welcome, as always, the current faculty and thank you and recognize all your accomplishments and the service that you continue to provide to the university. But I'd like to extend a special welcome, as this event does focus on the new international faculty members, and maybe just to sort of give you my perspectives and a few remarks on the role of international faculty members at this institution. We take great pride in, pardon me, I'm sorry, I'm kind of, I was just a bit distracted. Mm-hmm. We take great pride in the diversity of our faculty and the importance that brings to the richness of the education that we can provide here at the college. Your importance is not only based on your expertise in your subject matters, it is perhaps more importantly based on the perspectives that you can share, the experiences that you can share, and how you can challenge the students to think about assumptions that they make about the world, assumptions that they think about, that they may have about their areas of study. And so this is the charge the special charge that I would extend to you, and to hope that you see yourselves not only as teachers of your subject areas, but also cultural ambassadors to the school. And we welcome you here very warmly, and I'd encourage you not only to stop by the Dean's offices with Dean Graham and myself. We'd love to chat with you at any time, and we hope you enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that. Moving right along, but thank you for that.
It's quite we got slightly derailed in the middle of
quite a tall task, for sure. So you mentioned something about, is there anything that's altruistic? This one is a more informal one. I will actually have a role to play here. So let's say that you and I are neighbors, and we've been living next to each other for years, 10 years or so. We've become good friends. And I confide in you, or I tell you that my son would like to quit law school and become a chef. I am shocked and upset at my son's decision because I was thinking he was on the fast track to becoming a successful lawyer, and he tells me he really just wants to go be a chef. So I've confided in you that I'm a little upset about this, but try to convince me to support my son's new career. And obviously we're on good terms, so you can use whatever tricks you'd like to use to convince me that that I should be supporting my son's decision to drop out of law school and become a chef. Okay. So I'll begin.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, James, I really am a little upset about this. So you know my son Max, and he's doing really well in law school, and that was always a dream. But now he's halfway through his second year, and he tells me that he really just wants to go be a chef. And he doesn't see the point in even continuing the rest of his law degree. So you can imagine my reaction after all these years of him working toward this goal.
So I take it you've just found this out.
Yes. Yes. So I've just found this out.
The reaction
so I'm
is
sort
fresh.
of reacting. The reaction is fresh.
So what has he told you? How has he explained himself?
Oh, he just says he doesn't see. He realizes that he may be setting himself up to have an all work and no play kind of a lifestyle. What good would all that money be if he doesn't do something that he really enjoys? He looks around at all the successful lawyers around him, and he's not at all, I suppose, envying in any way, envious of their current lifestyles, and so he's ready to just sort of walk away. It's not what he thought it was, I guess. His expectations have been in some way not met.
I think that's a rather thoughtful response, because he could have just told you, well, I changed my mind, or I got bad grades, or whatever. But if he's had academic success, and
he's a great student,
and he's thinking about success in broader terms, or what does it mean to be what does it mean to be successful? What are you worried about? What worries you about it?
I just worry that he'll regret it, right? I mean, he's worked so hard to get to this point, and he's sort of halfway through law school. I think, well, maybe you should just finish the degree at least. Why walk away in the middle of it? And then go be a chef, maybe. I don't know.
Well, how useful would the degree be to him if he finishes off and then goes to culinary school, right? I mean, he could simply just make a start.
He could. I guess I just see that there's only another year and a half left, and I guess we've never just been quitters. I kind of would maybe feel a little bit like it was quitting or giving up on something, but.
Was there ever a time when you thought maybe you were heading down one path and then had to make a change, or just maybe there's a way to try to connect with him and what he's feeling, what he's going through?
Sure. Now that you mention it, when you put it that way, sure. There have been a couple of twists and turns, I guess, in my own sort of journey to this moment in time.
I mean, certainly I've been there too, right?
Yeah.
The path you think you're on isn't always the one.
Right.
Something comes up, but.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Well, I did just find out about it, so.
I mean, I think I would take heart in the fact that he's being quite thoughtful and considerate about it. It doesn't sound like he's done this on a lark.
That's true. No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem like a sort of a flippant kind of a reaction to something that he seems to be really thoughtful about it.
Could it, from a practical perspective, could it be that he takes a year and sort of investigates what the culinary possibilities are, and then maybe all wouldn't be lost for re-entry into law school?
I had actually not thought about that. That's a really good option. I should ask him to at least see if there's a leave of absence policy or something. I know in a lot of programs, a lot of academic programs, you can take a year off and come back and still be sort of in the main.
Because equally, he might find that he isn't the Iron Chef he thought he was. Right?
That's possible.
Right.
That's possible. That's true. I mean, he's always like being around the kitchen and helping, but you're right. I'm not sure that he quite maybe
being a sous chef is probably a different experience.
It's very different. It's very different than being a chef and making that your life's work. Plus, I'm telling him, that is also sort of a job that requires, if you do it right, just about any one of these jobs will require an awful lot of commitment and time and.
Well, I'm glad you told me about this. I'm glad you kind of got it off your chest.
Yes,
you looked a little worried.
I'm still a little bit sort of puzzled by what to do here. But maybe I'll have you come over to dinner and maybe
Max will cook.
Max will cook for you, and we can have a nice conversation about what he's how his expectations in law school are not exactly playing out the way he expected.
So sounds good. Keep me updated.
I will. Thanks for that. I'll get back to you. We'll arrange a dinner here one of these days. Thanks. All right, James, thanks for that role play. That's the end of that role play. Yeah, that was fun. I'm glad you had a little bit of fun with that one. So let's move on. We still have a little bit of time here. Let's talk about maybe two more topics before I'm ready to let you go. Let's talk about the rather big issue of how we balance individual rights and the common good. Okay. So on topics as diverse as things like airport security, secondhand smoke, there seems to be this ongoing dialectic or tension between protecting individual rights and ensuring the common good. Some people believe it's justifiable under certain circumstances to limit the rights of the individual to exercise their free will in order to preserve the common good, and others strongly oppose this notion of limiting individual rights in order to protect the common good. Which side of this debate do you favor, and why?
Well, I think the two examples that you gave were secondhand smoke and airport security. Present some interesting nuances there. Maybe there's an interesting contrast to set up, because I think maybe the blanket theoretical answer from my own sort of perspective is I do think there are times where you really do have to emphasize the protection, promotion of the common good, and if that means a bit of some limitation on individual free will and expression, then that greater good is had. And I think that secondhand smoke is a good example of that. And the reason I think that isn't just because I don't smoke personally, it's because there's demonstrated research over years that secondhand smoke causes damage to people who should have the right not to have that in their immediate area. So that would be an example that I think where I see things a bit more clear cut, because there's scientific evidence behind it, not just as a matter of personal preference. The airport security, I think, comes in shades and nuances, because on the one hand, certainly people should be able to travel securely and in the knowledge that certainly in this case, it would be government instances like the TSA are taking concrete steps to protect the safety of the flying public. However, I guess if you examine it a little further, why then should there be categories of applications of security there's a certain list of people where if you pay a fee and you have a certain certain status, then you pass through certain security checks that then the general public has a greater burden of proof, and that if you want to put it that way in that regard. So I think as a concept, yes, even something like airport safety, because you do want to protect the public, but I think maybe the applications of that aren't always as consistent as they might be.
Do you think that this tension is particularly salient in a well-developed, let's say, democracy like in the United States? This sort of tension between sort of my individual rights and protecting the common good do you think it may be more manifest in Western democracies than it is perhaps in some other cultures?
I think there is a sort of a political angle to consider, yes, in terms of if the political kind of cultural system that you're functioning within emphasizes sort of individual determination and free will. I also think that there is a financial and capitalistic side of it. I mean, if we went back to the airport security, I mean, I guess just based on my own sort of experiences of living in different places, Americans can come off as very much desirous of exclusivity. Right? I want to have certain specialness that you don't have, right? And how this gets manifested is quite important. So I think in part it has to do with of our political system, but I also think it has to do with being special, being exclusive, being treated in a manner that I think corresponds to my position in society.
That's interesting, especially in a society that sort of sees itself as being egalitarian, right? It's kind of another interesting contradiction or tension, right?
It is.
It's predicated. Western democracies are predicated upon the individual in the center of our political, social, cultural universe. But at the same time,
and then the overlay on that is executive platinum, all of these
special
statuses.
Or statuses. Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Really interesting way to frame it. So thanks for that. That's really interesting. Okay, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the arts, the role of the arts in the 21st century, because in this increasingly technological world of ours, the role of the arts continues to evolve, obviously. But it seems that in many places we are less and less in touch with the creative arts in our highly or hyper technological environment. But what might be lost or gained, let's say, if the importance of the arts continues to decline? Now that makes the assumption that it is declining in this age of sort of our hyper-technological age. You may disagree with that if you'd like, but if you agree with the premise that the sort of the role of the arts is somehow on the decline, what might be the implications of that, and what might ensue if this sort of artistic presence were to be dramatically reduced around the world?
I mean, I think as I hear the question and try to kind of think about it, and I think about the role of the arts as in numbers of people studying, participating in, being patrons of and appreciating the arts. And then I think of the role of arts as its impact upon and with other disciplines in an interdisciplinary perspective, right? So if the arts were to be studied, were to be attributed a lesser importance, it not only would be to the detriment of people who want to study that, who are interested in that naturally creative arts, performing arts, etc., but it would have a broader negative impact on all the interdisciplinary pursuits that are happening in education, like STEAM, combining the arts with science and technology. So I think that it's not just a situation, and I hope that we find ourselves as language educators, that we can take that same awareness and consciousness of it, that it isn't just what would happen to our discipline or the role of the arts in this specific case, to get back to the topic, but it's all of the potential richness and enhancements and all the ways in which those other disciplines could be better themselves because the arts are granted their importance. So on the one hand, yes, I mean you have fewer people pursuing artistic careers, right? And therefore fewer artistic outlets for the general public to go and appreciate. But you're also losing something much broader academically and culturally and socially.
Yeah, it does seem that there's that trend, though, right? We're focusing on the STEM fields, the science, technology, engineering, and math, and so it's often the question is often asked, but what kind of a job can you get with the arts and kind of
the answer is you can get a job in the sciences and technologies with it. Same as with languages, same as with arts. I think this sort of pigeonholing and cubbyholing and sort of single rail tracking is really unhelpful to everyone.
Sure. And it's actually kind of a new phenomenon, isn't it? I mean, for centuries, right? The arts and
so humanistic approach to education,
liberal
right?
education, right?
We thought we had the liberal arts down, and then
and now and that may be somewhat problematic, but it does seem that that's a changing model, right? The liberal arts always did form, at least in Western educational models. The liberal arts have formed the basis of higher education.
I think the degree to which in certainly academic circles, but also in career education and in the workplace, that these sort of competitive constructs have been built, that we're going to pit this area against this area is just damages everyone in the end.
Of course, yeah, I would agree. We're just about out of time. We are just about out of time, but it has been really, really fascinating speaking with you this afternoon. So thank you for that really interesting conversation, or set of mini conversations, I might say.
We bounced around a bit.
We bounced around just a bit. That's our protocol. What are your plans now after the interview? What do you have on the agenda for
My
this today?
plans are sadly to return to the mundane world of emails and much less interesting and delightful things and having conversations on these topics.
Yeah, it is.
So I'll go back and clean up some emails, and then I will go home and maybe catch a movie tonight. Don't know.
Great. There might be some bad weather coming, but like last night, I guess.
In that case, it's a movie at home.
It's a movie at home. So it really was nice, again, speaking with you this afternoon. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.